Well, this is my first video. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'm almost 72. I've been doing some type of, as we call it, spiritual work since, what was it, 71, I think, maybe 70. I accidentally overheard a discussion about the fourth way. Never heard of any such thing. I had no connection with any kind of esoteric, spiritual anything. I was interested in science fiction and that kind of a thing. Anyway, so I read In Search of the Miraculous, and it just blew me away. I mean, I immediately recognized it's the truth that it contained, and I started practicing all those fourth way. What's the word? Whatever the word is. I'm not good with words. Whatever. Not as bad as a lot of people I know. Um, and eventually came to West Virginia. The whole story, which is maybe another video, because I personally find it incredibly fascinating. The serendipitous, um, all the connections that led me to Fourth Way, which led me to Mr. Rose, everything. It just is truly crazy, amazing. Um, but so my idea of doing the video is to try to get my thoughts, my experiences, my ideas out there. Um, I, it feels like to me, I was so lost most of my life, and even until even a couple years ago, I still had huge questions and uncertainties, and but there was a progression. There was a very slow, not totally consistent uh, progression of my understanding uh, myself and everything. Um, and by no means do I have any absolute uh, understanding. Um, but I'm so much further along than I used to be. And hopefully, these ideas would prompt people to think and to look and to dig deeper. And you know, I certainly don't expect anybody to believe anything I say, but for goodness sakes, if you just allow your intuition to at least say to you, this is interesting, and maybe you should uh, disprove it. Don't accept it, don't just believe it, but look to disprove it. And in so doing, maybe you'll learn something. You may not prove what I'm saying is valid. It may not be valid to you, but I am pretty darn certain. One of the few things that I'm certain of is that you'll be a whole lot better off for trying to disprove the things I talk about in the long run. Um, you know, when I first saw the movie The Matrix, it was almost a revelation in the way that first reading In Search of the Miraculous, um, it was like, holy shit, this is the way it is. Um, we live we live within our imagination, and I use the words, and particularly the word our, my imagination, our imagination. I'm just using those words because it's common to use those words in the context of my talk. But I don't think that there are words. That's an unknown. I think it's more than likely it's words from something outside of what we would refer to as us. But even that, us, what does that mean? Are we defining ourselves? And that's, I think, one of the foundational things that I want to uh, communicate is that, uh, again, another analogy, which I think is just incredibly relevant and accurate. I guess I'm pretty darn certain of it. Is the ocean and the wave. You know, the wave thinks of itself as a wave, something separate from the ocean, and maybe not, you know, isolated in a vacuum, separated from the ocean. I mean, it knows it's made up of water just like the ocean, but yet it's still holding on to this belief that it's a wave. Whereas in reality, that's just a thought. There is nothing to validate that at all. It's just a thought. And in fact, that's what everything is. All of experience, all of the universe, no matter how advanced we could be, if an alien is a billion years more advanced than us, it would be no different. Um, the matrix is consciousness. And that's all there is. And everything is our consciousness dividing up consciousness. That's, I guess, I never thought of it in those words. I've never used that phrase. It just sounded like something to say at this moment. Um, and so I think that the fourth way, the essential foundational concepts, self remembering, which, by the way, in my experience, is the same thing as Eckhart Tolle's now, Richard Rose's Betweenness, um, Bob Harwood's ATA minus T. There's plenty of uh, words and phrases that describe something within that is not connected with anything. Uh, you might say it's like a black hole to the source. Of course, there's another word, source. You know, Eckhart Tolle, I think he uses the word being. Nancy Dennison, who is not a, not really a spiritual type writer. She's a near-death experiencer, but one of the most profound near-death experiences, and I am certain that she is completely valid. There's a lot of people imagining all sorts of stuff that they write, and to some degree, everything is literally a made-up bunch of bullshit. Everything I say is, I know that, but some things, even though they're bullshit, made up, projected nonsense, they can. They're. It's like some things are a little more, a little closer to. Well, I shouldn't say closer to anything because I don't want to define what I'm referring to, which is actually nothing because I don't know the ultimate whatever. But some things are further away from the larger amounts of untruth, you might say. And Yeah, this is the loss of thought, the train. I lost that train, but we'll see. Um, the so I look at my beliefs and concepts, my ideas, the things I'm talking about. Um, they're all they're all bullshit. They're just as much bullshit as anything in the ultimate sense. Now, relatively speaking, some ideas are a little, as I said, further away from the greater untruths, and these are the things that we can use. And I use this analogy, and I really feel that it's a really good analogy, and that is these thoughts that I'm conveying, they're all bullshit. They're ridiculous. I mean, for goodness sakes, I'm speaking in English ridiculously. Well, in a sense, all language is ridiculously limited. I can only choose certain words that have, 1,000 different meanings, different shades of meanings, and different contexts. Just ridiculous. But the words and ideas that I and everyone uses, a lot of them we can use. It's like we come across a stream, we need to cross it. Oh, we find some stones that appear to be spaced properly that we could use to cross. So, we cross on the stones, we get across the river. Well, the river is an illusion. The stones are an illusion. Getting across is an illusion. Being on the other side is an illusion. Being on the side when first encountering the stream is an illusion. But yet, these illusory things have led us to the perception that we did cross and we are on the other side. And maybe, even though it's one giant illusion, maybe that giant illusion somehow has enabled us to be closer to losing all the illusion. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It reminds me of this whole thing about not being able to do or not having free will, and I thought of this a long time ago, and that is that let's say we cannot do anything, but maybe there's magic in trying to do. And maybe that magic enables manifestation that gives the appearance of having done. Do you understand? Maybe we never did anything, but magically we are now experiencing what we were wishing or hoping or wanting, but maybe it happened without us doing, which validates that statement that we can't do. But maybe doing has nothing to do with manifestation. Maybe it's the trying that opens us to magic or something outside of ourselves that enables that manifestation. I'm trying to just kind of throw some oddball ideas out. Quiet. I don't have editing software yet, so I can't edit out the dog's bark. You went outside, you ate your breakfast. What on earth are you wanting? So, rambling. I know. There's no script. I was reading on YouTube, you need to have a script. And that would be a great idea. But this is the first time I did this. I just, for some reason, been thinking about it for a long time. And I thought, hell, I'll just pick up my phone and try a video. So the analogy reminds me of in Search of the Miraculous, when Ouspensky in the beginning of the book is talking about we need to wake up to the realization that we're in prison. That's the first step. Second, we need to obviously know we're in prison. The only thing we should be thinking about is escaping. And of course, in order to escape, we need help at various levels. You know, it would be great to be able to actually find something, whether it's direct verbal communication with the person that has escaped, or something that that person has written, or a drawing that person has made, or maybe stories from people that haven't escaped, but stories that were passed down from people that escaped. And so we wake up to the fact that we're in prison. Now, once we know we're in prison, nothing's the same. You know, that Wednesday hot dog lunch that we typically are salivating a day before thinking about, once we realize that we're in prison, you know, those hot dogs don't have the same appeal. You know, what's only on our mind is how to get the hell out of this prison. Everything changes. And that's where we are. That's where we're at. The first step is to experience the truth to being in prison, to recognizing that we're in prison. Now, most people have never had that recognition. They just kind of are accepting / believing what they've heard, that we're in prison, that we're robots, that we're asleep. But they haven't, and I won't, when I use the word validated it or proved it for themselves, I'm not referring to 100% validation or proof. I don't know why people are always thinking in absolute extremes. I'm saying that most people haven't experienced a degree of validation and proof that we're in prison. It's just a thought for a lot of people. And the way to validate it, which is, again, if you're in prison and you don't have any idea that you're in prison and your cellmate says, buddy, we're in prison, I mean, for the most part, it's going to be meaningless. But eventually, that cellmate may begin to accept the fact that, oh, yeah, I hear this a lot. You know, I guess we are in prison, but they don't have no proof, no personal validation. Well, the first thing we need to do is to prove it right or wrong, which is, in a sense, what I started out saying. You know, try to disprove everything I say, because that way you can close the book on it then, or open it, of course. But so we need to validate this whole prison robot idea. So that's the first step. And there's lots of ways of doing it. Although a lot of people start externally. They read, they listen, they watch YouTubes, they attend group meetings. And the idea of being in prison is reinforced. But again, there's no personal experience yet. So that's what we want. And the way to do that is to go within. It's not to throw ourselves in the outside. Although we do need that contact in order to go within. We need a balance. Again, everything in moderation. And I see so many people that have gone most of their lives and have built up incredible belief systems without ever validating anything. And it's just so obvious to me that, you know, they're living in a matrix within the matrix. Mr. Rose, you know, used to use the word bardo, and which I like that word. And other people I've read, they use the word bubble. You know, people are in a bubble, within a bubble. So we need to go within. It took me most of my life to understand that expression. I mean, I heard that vaguely even before I encountered Ouspensky. You know, I think Alan Watts was. I never read Watts. I heard that name a lot. I was a really disconnected kid. Excuse me. And but I never read it. I'm allergic to cats. I got cats. Goodness gracious. But it took me most of my life to actually understand what going within is. I remember in the 70s, I'm like, what the hell does it mean? Man, and then, I kind of tinkered with meditation, which I absolutely never liked. I suppose my Jewish type A New York personality doesn't mesh well with meditation. But I mean, I did it a little bit here and there. It was very, very comforting, very pleasant. And there was a good part of my life that when I came across a situation I could not figure out or know how to deal with a problem, I would just sit and force myself to sit with an empty mind. And it usually took 45 minutes, which I can assure you was an eternity to me. Just 20 seconds was not an easy thing for me to do. But I just would do it because I learned that it took 45 minutes for my mind to really quiet down. And I'd make sure it was completely empty. And this is one of the first things I picked up from Ouspensky and Gurdjieff was stopping thought, which I can't believe the number of people that react to those two words. They go, you shouldn't stop. You don't stop thought. You don't do that. You don't. That's ridiculous. And they go crazy. It's like, man, are you taking all these words so literally? So I mean, there's a million things I could say. Turn away from thought. Shift to a place that has less thought than another place. Oh my God. I just say stop thought. Okay, for goodness sakes. My God. Why don't you, instead of thinking of those two words in a very narrow, strict, literal translation, why don't you think about what the hell I'm even referring to? Think about that, which is actually, you can't really find words. If you can grok what I'm talking about, there are no clear words that will define it. An intuitive understanding is so much more than something you can put down with English letters. So we need to go within, and I've been doing that for most of my life, looking at, observing what's happening, my decisions, the thoughts that pop into my head, my choices, my feelings about things. And very slowly, as long as you maintain a separation, an objective observation, to whatever degree, it's never going to be perfect, of course, for God's sakes. And then there's those crazy people that think I'm referring to a 100% objective separative observing function. It's like, and then they go, you can't possibly, you can't be 100% observing. It's like, where you come up with this shit? I mean, it's sort of like these people, it's like their whole life, they just want to disprove everything to enable them to rationalize remaining in the little bubble world that they're imprisoned in. And they feel so proud that they're imprisoned so tightly, Oh my God. Anyway, so we go within, we observe, and slowly I began to notice things like where things came from, more from ego than anything else. That was, I think, the majority of my understanding through observation. that I wasn't understanding things clearly. I was, in a sense, misinterpreting things in order to benefit the egos involved, to give the egos what they would want to hear. And they would, twist the interpretation in order to get what they wanted. Anyway, so I don't know what else to do. I really need a script. There's so much that I want to go into. But again, recognizing that we're in prison. I wrote a bunch of things. Most of them are one page. But this one entitled Terror of the Situation, which is a phrase taken from Gurdjieff, to recognize our true situation. And that's, I think, a really good place to start to read something like that. You can, contact me for a link to that document. You may be able to find it online. I don't think anything much of whatever I've written is there. I just realized I should post some stuff. I mean, this is a YouTube video, so that means I can just put a link down, as they say, below. But I never knew what this below is. Maybe it's only on a computer, because if I'm watching it on the TV, there's no below. If I'm on my phone, I don't think there's a below. So maybe it's only on a computer or a tablet that there's a below the video window of that particular video. So there's a lot I got to figure out. But you can Google Gurdjieff's Terror of the Situation. And I tell you, you want to get some real heavy duty terror, read up on Stephen Norquist. And he'll set you straight about Terror of the Situation, let me tell you. Man, you're not going to want, you're going to want to run so far away from any kind of spiritual path leading you to real truth, as they say, if you read Stephen Norquist. And his main written work is titled, I think it's titled The Haunted Universe, or maybe just Haunted Universe. But he has a wonderful video online, and it was done at in connection with TAT many years ago. And so if you Google Steve Norquist, and you'll see the video of him personally talking about the book and his experiences. Enough for now. Okay, I gotta go. Bye.